Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is October 8th. I'm going to do a quick Canadian political reading here. The debate was the only all English or whatever debate out of Ottawa yesterday was on, and there energetically it doesn't feel as if anybody actually made ground, nor did they lose ground. Certainly not in terms of the Liberals and the Conservatives. So I think there might be some flux in terms of the Green Party and the NDP. I think you might see people sort of almost like going back and forth between those two. So I see their numbers kind of shifting. But definitely the race between Trudeau and Scheer is absolutely running neck and neck. I do not expect that to change. I have been saying that it is going to be a very close election, and it is going to end up being a coalition government. So I want to just take a quick look and see if the universe can give us any insight or guidance in terms of the upcoming Canadian election. It is October 21st is voting day, and I know all the people who watch me for sure are going to be out and about and voting. And I don't know, I'm sure it's across Canada, but I know for me, early voting starts like October 11th. So that's like a few days away. Okay, so I guess I have a question. Come on down. Okay, so we'll give it a couple more quick shuffles. And we want to know about the Canadian federal election 2019. So let's take a look. Canadian federal election, Canadian federal election, Canadian federal election. Yeah, okay. So this is like really clear. There's a lot of juggling going on. People are trying to, it's not the people who are dead set liberals and the people who are dead set conservatives. No one's, you're not going to sway those. It's all the other people who are sort of not so entrenched in one ideology that they're not able or capable of finding merit in the other parties. Those are the people that really honestly are going to decide the election. If we were in the States, we would call them the independents. They're people who are not necessarily loyal to a specific party as much as there are certain values that they want reflected. There are certain attitudes, there are certain benefits. And in many ways, those are the people in this election who are going to actually shape the election, because they are the ones who are balancing and juggling. There's going to be a lot of strategic voting from this. And it's going to be neck and neck right till the very end. The levers is clearly indicating a coalition government, right? It's indicating two parties coming together to create a whole or a bigger, one. So that's confirmation. That's where the victory is going to come from, two parties coming together. And I think it was very clear that both Singh and May have some rather significant issues with the Conservatives. Now, that doesn't mean they're butting up to the Liberals, because they're not. It's just that they don't seem to be so far apart on the page as the NDP versus the Conservatives, or heaven forbid the Green Party versus the Conservatives. that is definitely, that's not going to be a good fit. So from there, I guess all we can assume is that if the Liberals have at least enough votes to squeak by, then that would be where that coalition party comes from. Okay, so a couple of things. More and more stuff is coming out about different politicians. It's dirty laundry kind of stuff. Although I have to say, in all objectivity, that whole dual citizenship with Scheer is, I'm not sure why, but I kind of just feel like it's a bit of an issue. That's my own personal, bias there. I'm not quite sure, but I'm not real comfortable with it. I'll say it to you that way. So it's just going to be a really hard-fought race. There's going to be more communications coming out. Some of it is going to fall into the category of sort of smear. Some of it is almost going to be like, dirty laundry. And then some of it is actually going to be interesting. So for a country that only has like a couple more weeks to go until this election, there is still a lot that's going to go on and a lot that's going to change. But it doesn't matter how you cut the apple. The reality is that if you look at the sort of the polls right now, it's kind of 35-35 and then it breaks down. So the bottom line is that there's going to be a significant segment of the population who are going to be disappointed, and they're not going to like the new government that comes in. Very interesting. Okay, so the Hierophant often, talks about big governments, that kind of thing. So to me, this in this reading is literally the Canadian, the federal government of Canada. But these two queens on either side are really, really interesting. And again, in a smaller wave, because there's just less people here. But there is also that push towards female energy, ensuring that female rights are not rolled back in any way, ensuring that rights for all peoples and all minorities and all sexualities are sort of left untouched. And that energy is coming from women. It's coming from college educated women. It's coming from the moms at home. It's coming from the older women who have watched, their daughters and granddaughters come up, and they don't want to see things going back to the way they used to be. Now, I don't know statistically if that's on the mark at all. I don't have a clue. I'm just telling you energetically, it really, really does feel that women are going to play a significant factor in the outcome of the election. And, I am not unmindful of the fact that Elizabeth May is a woman and could very much be represented by one of these queens. So yeah, there we have it. Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute. And so again, offers being made that people are not receptive to. And it's interesting because this card represents the Canadian citizens, okay? This is not about an offer being made politically between two parties or anything like that. This is literally about Canadians saying, you're offering me this, I don't want that. I'm not interested in that. And again, you get that polarization, right? Where you've got 35% of the people who are convinced that you're absolutely wrong and 35% of the people who are convinced you're absolutely right. And we need to fight against that sort of same polarization that we have seen happen in other countries, frankly, to the detriment of that country. So you have the Death card coming up here. And so that's, whoa, my goodness. Okay, Death, Tower, Fool. Okay, so honestly, if this was a reading about the United States, I would know exactly what these means. Okay, so seriously, what we're talking about here is we're talking about a change. There is a change coming in our federal government. And it doesn't matter kind of how you slice it. Of course, that's an accurate statement, because you have, the Liberals are not, they do not have a way of actually having a majority government. So the way they, if they are elected to stay in office, even the way they do things is going to be, they're going to have to do a lot of compromising. So one way kind of that power center is getting torn down, and it's opening up room for a new way, new steps, new, just taking a step forward into the future. And it is very important, and I don't think that this is beyond their understanding, that there are going to be people who are going to be very disappointed. They're going to feel left out in the cold. They're going to feel like their needs were not heard, listened to, respected, whatever the story is. And, it's going to take a lot of communication, a lot of clear communication to sort of start healing those wounds. Now, if that's one thing we do in Canada relatively well, is sort of come together. We can mutter and mumble, but it's not likely to turn into kind of the battle that we see going on in other parts of the world. But there is definitely going to be that feeling that, I've been left out. What I was looking for hasn't been addressed. And so that, again, there's going to be, it's really mixed. I got to tell you, right? I mean, you're getting some really good cards. You're getting some cards that like really do speak to caution and things not being all that clear cut at the moment. So this is the one thing that I did notice from the debate yesterday. So whenever something came up that was pertaining to a benefit or things that we are used to having in this country, the most common thing that I heard Andrew Scheer say was, we want to put money back into the pockets of Canadians. Yeah. Okay, so that actually doesn't work, because the way you're going to justify doing that is by cutting some big service. And so it's not helpful if you take away a service that Canadians use once a year and it costs $100. And now that's no longer going to be covered, so Canadians now have to absorb the $100. Except the way you're going to compensate that is make a big announcement about all of the millions and millions of dollars you're putting back into Canadians' pockets, except it only boils down to, $24.75, okay? So you need to be really careful and listen to sort of the code language that gets spoken and be clear about what kind of some of that language actually means. And they all have their codes, okay? But that one just kept hitting me yesterday as I was watching the debate, sort of as glaringly false. It just wasn't ringing true. And Canada is in a place right now where the last thing we need, because we've been so hit hard by the oil situation, just basically a slowing down of the economy. The housing market is slowing down, I think, pretty much across Canada. The last thing we need is to have the government start pulling services that we need, depend on, utilize. And so there needs to be some real careful consideration to kind of some of the words being said and the way things are being said. Those code phrases, listen for them. A lot of this in Canadians' minds is going to boil down to resources. What is available to work with, what is fair for Canadians to receive, how, logistical things, sort of, what's the word for it? Kind of like the the way the things are being unfolded, the way they're being offered, just needs to be reworked going forward, because again, you have that amalgamation of the two parties coming together. So honestly, this thing is going to go right down to the wire. It really is. You know, at this point, my feeling is sort of like energetically, it feels like the Liberals are going to end up slightly ahead of the Conservatives. I know that they're saying that really, for all intent and purposes, the Metro Toronto area, the Greater Toronto area, is actually going to be who decides the federal election. And to be fair, it's almost always like that to some varying degrees or another. So honestly, at this point, all we can hope is that Metro Toronto has figured out that going Conservative, the likes of Ford, is probably not going to be a really positive way for Canada to go forward federally. And we hope collectively as a country that there is that pushback. But basically, irregardless of who wins, there's definitely going to be that change of fortune. Okay, the Liberals are not going to be as strong as they could be. Again, you have that coalition government. Because we have the Empress here, it lends a little bit more weight or credibility to Elizabeth May, but that by no means is set in concrete. So, you know, there we have it. I guess if I had to say anything, it very much feels like this election is really about strategic voting. It's about ensuring that enough votes are cast for the party that you sort of want to be in control, be that Liberal or Conservative, but that the NDP and the Green Party also get enough votes so they are well able to, you know, bring that government together. So that's where we are. I don't know that I've given you any more clarity. It's still very, very much up in the air. The only thing I have clarity on is, you know what, it's probably going to be a coalition government. It's going to be a very tight race. And, you know, that's what I know right now. Like I say, I don't think yesterday advanced the ball between the two leading candidates very much, nor do I think it reversed their position. So they didn't, you know, get a ball. They didn't also lose a ball. It was just kind of what it was. Okay, so there we have it for the Canadian election. As I said earlier, early voting starts soon. So if that's something you need or want to do, get that on your calendar. And we continue to move forward towards the 21st of October. And between now and then, we have Thanksgiving, so we can at least do a little bit of regrouping. Okay, so thank you so much for finding me and taking the time to be with me. I very much appreciate it. The donations and the comments and the likes and the subscriptions, they just literally warm my heart. I cannot tell you how humbled I am by them. And if you're at all interested in a private reading, that little box right under me is going to give you some information on how to reach out and connect with me so that, you know, you can get some information on that. So for now, until next time, take care, be well, and I'll see you really, really soon. Bye.